Can you hear me at all?
I can definitely hear you. Yes.
Haha, that's good. That's good. So I'm getting an echo.
I, you're coming through crystal clear on my end, but
Uh, just give me a moment. I might have something going here.
yeah, it sounds excellent. I was like, wow, this is better. I streamed with Mike. We had a few. I don't know if you saw that, but there was some technical difficulties.
Yeah, yeah,
His wife
yeah.
blew a fuse and all that. Yeah, there was some things going on. So,
Well, hopefully we won't have those issues on ours.
but
So,
like I said, you at least on my end, you sound crystal clear.
yeah.
This is like an exceptional connection. So,
Well, I got a really good microphone, and I had something running on the background, so it was looping back through my headset.
aha, okay, got
So, but you're the creator of Brand,
you. You better
which
believe it. Yes.
which is currently on Kickstarter. Now,
Yeah, we got 13 days left. We are 7% funded. Um, which I
and
didn't. I started to doubt we would get to that point, but Mike S. Miller and Ethan Van Sciver and a couple of very dedicated supporters have championed this book and helped us get to that point.
well, if you ask me, you should be on more live streams in this community, man.
Well,
You really need that attention because this book really deserves it. I like what I see here. I really do. And who's the artist?
it is Shelby Robertson, one of Rob Liefeld's original proteges. Uh, Rob Liefeld hired Shelby at the ripe old age of 17. And
was
he,
that was that back in the 90s or
oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Shelby's been in the business 25 years. Although, if I'm not, like I said, he got hired so young, he's been in the business 25 years, but I think he's only like 38 or 39. So that's what's the thing, because I'm 43 and I thought he was in his 40s, and no, so I'm like, he's getting there though. He's about to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Well, a lot of those artists were like that back then. A
Um,
lot of them were pretty young. They were pulling them out of high school.
yeah, that's why I was like when uh, I learned about Shelby. Well, let me rewind and start at the beginning when um, I started this project. I was literally living at home. I was like 25, 26 years old. And my mom had one of those old house. We were living in a house that was built like in the 1920s. So it was like, it's kind of small, huge bathtub though. And that's, I actually, I'm going to out myself a little bit. I don't know. As a big man, sometimes I like soaking in a tub, but uh, well, I'm saying a lot of these modern bathtubs, they're not made for big people. So
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of times I'm just a shower guy. But if I have a chance to just sit back and soak in like a big old spa or something, I'm gonna take it. So I
yeah.
liked soaking in my mom's big tub, and I would just drift away and think about all the different kind of comic books and it would just I would just escape into that world. And I had been watching uh, this HBO documentary on George Kuklinski, the Iceman serial killer. They made a movie about him, and
Hmm.
Stone Cold Steve Austin based the Stone Cold persona on Iceman. So he was like a mob hitman and serial killer. Killed at least about 100 people. It sounds like he killed a bunch of people, and it was. I started having these thoughts. I said, "What if I do a book about a serial killer, but he's a different serial killer. He works for God. He's the people he's killing are, uh, you know, deemed by God or angels or whoever is directing him to for elimination, and then he hunts and kills those people. And then you could add werewolves and demons and all that kind of stuff into the equation. Once that happened, it started coming to me at that point,
Yeah.
because I really just had the main character David, and
Yeah.
I wanted him to have a companion. So that's when I created Penance, his mask,
Yeah.
and
Go a little
I
bit
wanted
more
him.
into that. Go a little bit more into your protagonists, right? Because you're David and Dawn. They're for a group, right?
Yeah,
Explain
there.
that a little bit more.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm doing. Um, uh, like I said, as I started world building, I realized, at the point, like I said, I only had David, and then I said he needs somebody to talk to, um, or at least to give him his orders or something. So created Penance, and then I created people around him. There's my world, the world of Brand. David Craven is going to be presented as a legit uh, private investigator. The hunters, there are only 1,000 of them on the entire Earth, of 7 billion people, and they're basically fronting as private investigators. They do. There's a group called the Hova Corporation, and that is who they all work for. They use that as a front to appear legitimate, and then in the back channels they are being contacted by people that experience paranormal activities. There's looks like there might be werewolf attacks or things of that nature, and these people reach out to the Hova Corporation and they send these investigators in to look into or debunk these things. Witches and warlocks and all these different type of different dealing with voodoo and different types of things. So the people that work for the Hova Corporation, of which there are some humans that work for the Hova Corporation that help coordinate. One of them is a priest named Vargas, and Vargas is someone that I would consider David's handler. He's him and David have choice words for each other, but they respect each other. And you know, David is a rule breaker. He doesn't. The Hunter Society has very strict rules, and David likes to bend or break the rules. He doesn't. There's very few people he listens to outside of, but he respects Vargas. Um, there's also his master. Oh my, hold on. I'm getting the call. I told everybody I was doing this. Hey, let me call you back, bud. All right, bud. All right. Actually, a very dear friend of mine. I try to tell everybody, I was like, look, I'm doing this interview. Don't bother me right now. But Vargas and David, then you have David's master, Gaiman, that found David when he was 15. And David's father wasn't in the home, and he kind of took to Gaiman, and Gaiman really groomed and mentored him. And although David was not a perfect student and made other mistakes that we'll touch on in the book, and we flash forward, say 20 plus years, because David's going to be an older man in his 40s,
Yeah.
and then Dawn is a young woman, where we kind of set up that they had encountered each other in the past, and then David went on about his way and Dawn went on their way, and somehow Dawn ends up in the town that David lives in, Havenwood. Um, and she ends up in Havenwood, and she's a bartender at this bar called On the Rocks. And David's brother Robert likes to go to this place, and David's not much of a club goer, but he goes there and he sees that this is the person that he had encountered at X point, and the insanity ensues from there. But we also have there's a lot of things uh, that the characters. We also have, oh yeah, the villains as far as Dark Santana. Uh, we also the evil
which
Santa Claus.
which
What?
I will say, I am looking forward to that character.
That's
I'm getting that shirt, that one with him on the throne with the skulls.
oh man, the Jamie Biggs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. People love that. That's hanging in my bedroom. The original art for that. Yes,
Yeah,
that's.
and there is original art for this book on the Kickstarter too. I seen.
Oh yeah, yeah. We have. There's some stuff that hasn't fully been shown yet, and but I tried to show, at least as far as promotional art, I tried to show uh things that I think will be important, because definitely need to show Santana, need to show David's first masked horse who partners with Santana, because that's, yeah, Penance is actually David's second mask. When and a lot of people ask about the that's one of the biggest things. Everybody's like, what's going on with these masks? Um, I did a video on my YouTube channel where there's an old John Buscema Hulk book that he drew in like '83, and Bruce Banner had this. At this time, it was the Intelligent Hulk, and he had this thing called the Recorder Spear, and it was literally just a silver spear, and it would go on adventures with him, because at the Hulk books at that time, it was pretty much like the Hulk television show with Bill Bixby. Bill Bixby's a drifter, and he just
Mm.
goes from town to town and that kind of thing. And so they would portray the Hulk as kind of a lonely person, so he needed someone to talk to. And because he needed someone to talk to, they just created this plot device known as the Recorder Spear. I, as a 7-year-old, loved that Recorder Spear. It seemed to work. It was very effective. I wish I could remember like I said, I did a video on it when I talked about things that inspired me. And I wish I could remember the writer, but I know John Buscema was the artist. And it it occurred to me as I was creating this holy serial killer that this I was like, what if he had this mask? And there's also a Japanese anime show called Ronin Warriors. I'm trying to think. I think it's called Super Samurai Troopers over in Japan. But they had all these different armors, and one had like earth power, one had wind power, water, sky power, and all this kind of thing. It was just basically elemental armors, and I that's another thing that I wanted to play with as far as with the masks, where you're at one power level, and then when you join with the mask, it just hulks you up into a whole nother sphere. But
Yeah,
and I haven't shown any of that kind of stuff yet, because we'll see David joined with Penance, and then we'll see other warriors, because there's a piece I have. Trying to see here if I can actually let's see. I'm still trying. Listen here. Here's the screen share. I want to see. I want to share something,
share.
and let me see if I can. Can you see the stuff that I'm sharing? I don't know if it's working, but
Uh, I can see your screen.
okay, good. Let's see if I can get in here. Okay, let me pull that up. Yeah, Mike was trying to school me the other day, because I was like, "How are you doing this?" I was like, "I'm such a noob with all this stuff, so I don't know."
Well, this is my first stream, so I'm hoping that people will come, they'll tune in, they'll see your work, and they'll definitely go to your Kickstarter.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, so because people have said, "Well, I don't have a lot of YouTube presence and stuff." I feel like if you tag it and and I retweet it, and I'm definitely going to share it on the Akari Press Facebook page and stuff like that, and let people see that will give you and I will do my reaction video on how the interview went and all this kind of thing, and link to your channel and but as you can see this, are you still able to see my
Oh
screen?
yeah, yeah, I see you perfectly fine.
Okay, good. Okay, let me see. Can I?
Just don't show us any spoilers there.
Oh
We,
no,
we
no,
don't
no,
want to.
no. All that stuff would be on someone else's computer.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But okay, this is, and I'm actually wearing that T-shirt. I'm wearing this T-shirt that we have on Amazon, but this is Dark Santana, and this is, of course, David's master. This is gaming. If you'll notice, he has. I don't know if you saw the Akari Press logo.
Yeah,
It's just what was that?
yeah, yeah, I seen it.
Okay, yeah, it's basically a mask with the three. It's gaming's mask. Though it's got those three slash marks, um, which actually came from Santana about a couple thousand years ago. They have not. They're not new. They're not strangers. They've encountered each other before. And that in the corner there is David's first mask horse, and then that little dragon there is Komori, who is Gaiman's dragon, and Komori means smoke in Japanese. So that is how we came up with that. Matter of fact, let me show some of this other stuff. I have all this promotional art, and this is all done by we've used like 3 or 4 artists. This is let's see. This is yeah, this is the Jimbo Salgado piece uh with Horace versus Dark Santana. This is before Horace turned on David, and this was done by Jimbo Salgado, who is doing the Ravage Kill All Men book with Chuck Dixon.
Yeah, very good book.
Oh, did you back that one?
Yeah, yeah, I'm backed on a lot of these Kickstarters.
Oh, good, good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But Jimbo did the Ravage Kill All Men. He's my buddy, and shout out to him. And then let me see if I have another one. I'm trying to see.
And this
Oh,
isn't. This is a very long book. This is 100 page, right?
it is 100 pages, and this is Rosalind Craven or Rose Craven, uh, and this is William Craven, and he is wearing a mask called Scepter. It'll take a while before we get to that because he's gonna be. We're going to lay the ground for him in the first 100 pages.
Yeah,
He will be born in another book. He won't. Dawn will be pregnant in the first book, which I've said that before. Yeah, because he's not actually going to be born. Uh, there's another story that is more Santana centered called Eight Crazy Nights, and I want William to be born in Eight Crazy Nights and to have that story be centered around the Cravens' first Christmas as a family together.
yeah. You have several different books planned out.
Oh yeah.
Right? You're not just we're putting this one out and then we're gonna come up with another one in 6 months. You
And
have a
that's and some people got mad at me when I said that. I've noticed that about certain Kickstarters where I feel like there's one company and they're actually nice people that do but they seem like they do a Kickstarter every about 4 months, 3 or 4 months, and they put these books out and they're only like 22 pages. They're not really long books. So it's I don't know. It's like by Rumble Jane 2, and then they do like another little 22 pager. They Although I will say all their Kickstarters have been extremely successful. They seem like they are able to raise 25, 30,000 every time. The last one I saw, I do follow them on social media just because I want to follow people that are good at what I'm trying to do. So they are good at this crowdfunding thing. Even though I don't like the fact that, the books seem a little pricey and you're not getting very much for, you know, if I offer, if I'm asking for $25, because a lot of people are telling me, hey, chop this down and you can still charge X amount. And, but then come back and I was like, I hate that. I want, um, at least I want to do 48 pages at the least. Um,
Yeah.
so, I don't know. It just seems like let me just do 22 pages and ask you for like 15, $20 and hopefully raise, and then in about 4 months, I'm gonna come back around again and try to raise another 30 grand and put out another book.
Well, I think how you're doing it, like you have a story that's enclosed within 100 pages, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
So you've given the customer their book and they have their story. And I assume that they could go away from that story and that would be, they'd be satisfied
Yes,
within that 100 pages.
yes, but
So
they're definitely. I will definitely set at the last few pages. Will be a definitive end. I don't want to say. Although to be fair, since I haven't even began working on it yet, I know. Well, I mean, it's plotted, but the second brand story is called "The Judas Crown," and that does have a cliffhanger.
yeah,
I set it up kind of like Empire Strikes Back. I kind of wanted to give at least a happy ending in the first book, but there will be seeds of doubt sown away from the Cravens, so people will be like, "Oh man, okay, he won, but he
we still
doesn't
have
know these things
questions.
are happening." Yeah, yeah. Well, there are people, obviously the opposition. We have Lionel Solomon, the leader of the Covenant, and they are trying to bring this evil being Deus back into our world. And obviously David and Dawn step in and try to stop him, along with a few other people. There's some characters I hadn't really touched on. There's some humans. There's a woman. Uh, she's like a FBI government agent by the name of Verdalyn Perry, and she and her partner Hutch, Michael Hutchison, they will. They're actually going to be investigating some other things, and it's going to lead them to cross paths with David, and they're going to be like, he's checking out, but something's not right. He's too clean. Something makes me suspicious. And then so even though they're not David's enemies, they're suspicious of David. And the whole point of Hunter society is to keep humans in the dark. Humans are not supposed to know that there are otherworldly beings, that there are demons and shapeshifters and werewolves and banshees and people that practice the occult and all these things. Nobody's supposed to know that. Humans, we're supposed to be able to just go on about our day to day and watch CNN or whatever, and get your
Yeah.
phone and use your app and all that kind of stuff. You're not supposed to know that there are things to go bump in the night.
And
And
that's part of the universe that this is set in, right? Like the deities, and you have Lucifer, and you have this well, what was his name?
was
Uh
I've got Lucifer, Deus, and Jehovah.
Deus, that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But and they're kind of all mingling together in this universe trying to get power.
Oh yeah, yeah. But at the beginning of this book, I actually hope to go back. There's like I said, I have so many stories. There's a there's a story that I plotted called the God War, and that is going to break down how Jehovah and Lucifer was like a lieutenant, and Jehovah and Deus were working together, and then Lucifer picked a side, and then he switched and did all this thing, and then
Yeah.
he did all this kind of shifty stuff, and then he got sent down and made the warden of hell. and that's because uh, it was kind of a punishment. He got banished from heaven, but he wasn't destroyed because at the end of the day he came to his senses and helped Jehovah and his forces defeat Deus, and they sealed him in this pocket dimension. And so it's these people that were following Deus and worshiping him. They formed the grounds. It's old power going back thousands of years, old royal bloodlines. That is the basis that formed the covenant. Um,
Yeah.
and the covenant has these like crystals that are able to align with Deus, and he's able to speak to them from this dimension. And from that, um, he can reach into our dimension and on a limited basis, but he's trying to find a more, he's trying to have them open a wider gate so that they can open the portal and free him finally, so that he can reclaim this world. He feels like this was his planet, and he wants to get revenge on Jehovah and Lucifer and people that did this to him and trapped him there.
And
And
that connects back to Lionel, correct?
yeah, Lionel is the head of the covenant, and he has. I wanted him. He's a tech billionaire. Matter of fact, let me do the sharing thing again. Let's see if I can. I actually like that. That was cool. And let me see. So I'm gonna share, and let me go. Oh wow! Did I share like 15 things, or did I just share?
It's
uh,
okay.
okay, because I was like, wow, that was a bunch of windows. That got weird.
Yeah, you're on share, so anything on your screen should show up. I haven't switched it back.
Let me see. Okay, let's see here. Now uh, this is Lionel Solomon, and let's see. This is Lionel Solomon, and this was done by uh, a Marvel DC image guy named Thomas Mason. You can find him on social media at Mental Studios, if I'm not mistaken, and colored by my dear friend and the colorist on brand, Mr. Jesse Hagee, who is my brother in Christ, and I love him. But this is Lionel Solomon. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't know, and there's obviously gaming, um, actually had to have Kanan help with this piece because I had given Thomas some very specific instructions, and obviously most of the work that I have displayed was done by Mr. Kanan White that did Son of Shaolin and Harlem Hellfighters and Uber with Mr. Kyron Gillian, the author of The Wicked and the Damned, or no, The Wicked and the Divine. That's the
Yeah.
one. But I know he just sold that into some kind of movie or TV property. But just like another book, Son of Shaolin got bought by The Rock, and so you're gonna see that. And Kanan did all the groundwork on that, and so originally we were supposed to do Brand with Kanan, and then he was just so busy that he was like, "Look, man, I can't do it, but I'll support you in other ways." So he was gonna do uh, character design because Shelby's busy as well. So if I already have everything set up, then Shelby can just do his thing. And
Yeah.
so obviously this is inspired by Brian Boland. This is Brian Boland's Killing
Yeah,
Joke.
killing. Yeah.
Yeah, and and I don't know. The one thing I will say about Kanan, I'm trying to set it up where I can have him on my YouTube. Kanan takes my insanity. I have a lot of ideas. I have a ton of ideas. And a lot of people, one of the reasons I work with Kanan is because he takes my he doesn't think I'm crazy when I give him an idea. I've mentioned to other. There was another artist I had approached, and I kind of told him what I wanted, and he was like, "Dude, I can't do it." I was explaining everything, and when I said that to Kanan, you know, it's that old saying, and some people ask why, and I ask why not. Kanan's a why not guy, and
Yeah.
and when you say why not, you get a piece like this that Ethan Van Sciver loved, where, and I actually made this. This is a T-shirt on my TeePublic store.
Yeah, I
But
seen that. I seen that before the stream. I went over and checked it out, and yeah,
yeah.
that's a nice piece.
Oh yeah, and like I said, the fact that Ethan retweeted it, man, people started, and that's what we were just doing it for fun. Um, and I paid Kanan, paid Jesse, told everybody what I wanted. Um, and because Ethan literally did an hour-long video where he was like destroying Rose Tico figures in various ways. I think the video, he doesn't even talk on the video. He literally just has tons of Ticos, and then he rips the arms off of them, cuts the head off, cuts the leg off. I don't know if you saw that video. It was
Oh yeah. I watch Uncle Heath.
yeah,
Yeah.
It was he was doing all kinds of stuff, and I was like, I tweeted to him, and I said, you should draw yourself as an orange lantern surrounded, by mountains of rose tico, because the character Larfleeze, the Orange Lantern, he has a ton of Orange Lantern rings because he doesn't want anybody else to be an Orange Lantern except him. And then he uses the constructs, which are the dead lanterns, that the lanterns that he's killed, and then he recreates them as as Orange Lantern constructs. But look at that likeness. I mean, look how good that is.
Yeah, that is really, really good.
Oh no, and like I said, the printing on this stuff, and of course the infamous Rainbow Brute. Uh, and I thought Kanan, as long as you give him some kind of photo reference, he can knock that thing out the park. Um, we had some problems with this piece originally because I was trying to get Kanan. I was like, he had this, and he had, he always does these little energy flares and everything, and he covered up the Orange Lantern symbol, and I was like, dude, that's literally the only place on the entire piece where the Orange Lantern symbol comes. And then he goes, okay, well, he goes back in and he fixes it, and then he does that, and then Jesse works his. Jesse is as good at his job as Kanan is in his. And I do not say that lightly. I think I have some of the best people working in comics today working on my book. Period.
Yeah, and you're not, and just so people who are watching this will know, this is your first book, right?
This is I mean, I've written I've been more of a blogger. That's just because I love creative writing. I was always that was something when they would give me those assignments in English class and stuff, and they would like, just write like a short story or something like that. I would always excel at those because people were like, man, your imagination is incredible. The problem is I'm not an artist. And so when I would say things like that, it was, I would be met with, uh, well, good luck with that. Like I said, my brother, when I started really, really pushing this, because what happened was my mother passed. It'll be 2 years in October, and she was 78 years old. And she, it really hit me. Like I said, I'm 43, and I've been having notes for this book uh since 1998, since June of 98, if I'm not mistaken.
So this is pretty much a child of the 90s.
Oh
And,
yeah.
And for anybody who read during the 90s and you see that art, you're looking at pretty much the best of the 90s in the art.
Oh yeah, and that was another reason the idea of working with Shelby. Shelby used a lot of different when he would sign his art, he would sign it with different names. Because I was talking to him on Instagram, and he was like, "Well, when I worked with Glenn Danzig, I didn't want to put my main name on it because obviously Glenn Danzig, huge uh, rock star, uh,
Hmm.
also a big comic book fan, and he decided to create, which it may still exist, I'm not sure, but he decided to create this kind of shock horror comic book label. I think it was called Trauma or something. I did either way. Shelby has a Wikipedia page, and all this stuff is on there, but um, he created kind of these, it would be these twisted images of women, and it was like a bunch of demons and sex play and stuff like that. It was a lot of gore, and to this day, that's why when Shelby goes to like a lot of horror cons, because he has a following in that community. A lot of people like to see. He does a lot of high gloss prints with like Frankenstein and all these different, Chucky and the clown from It and all these different werewolves and things. So
Yeah.
when he saw Kanan's art, he was like, "Oh, okay, this I can see this. Yeah," he's like, "This is up my alley." And he came to me because of Jesse. Jesse and him are they both live in Arizona. They attend a lot of cons together. They're bros, and I found Jesse. Jesse's probably the most important person on my team, but I wouldn't have Jesse without Kanan White, and that's why I always mention Kanan White. Kanan White. Matter of fact, it looks like in some capacity, Kanan is going to come back and work on brand, which is what I wanted. This was something that even though I created all this stuff, the vision was implemented by Kanan. So
Hmm.
without Kanan, the design of the characters and everything, all the artwork that everybody goes on that page and sees, that's Kanan. That's
Yeah.
Kanan's heart and soul bleeding out, on the screen. And he just every idea. If I'm at 50%, when he gets done with it, it's at 150%. And especially the first thing he did as far as Dark Santana, and I just basically was like, "Hey, I want like this real ratty looking Santa that's just evil and beyond, just a disgusting guy with this weird skunk stripe in his beard and all that." And Kanan was like, "Santa Claus?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Okay." As long as, at first he wasn't, and then as he got into it, you could see the very first thing he drew, he was like, "Oh boy, this is on another level." And
Yeah.
yeah, and then so I kept giving him more Santana pieces, and which I think he's done 4 for us. And he killed every single one of them. Every single piece he did was amazing. The most detailed one was the one I showed with Gaiman, because I've been wanting. I kept telling people that David had a master named Gaiman, and everybody was like, "You got pictures of Gaiman?" And I was like, "Well, no, it hadn't been created yet." And everybody kept saying, "You keep talking about this character Gaiman, but you don't have anything to show us about it." And so I
Okay.
said, I went to Kanan and I said, "Okay, I need you to create the character of Gaiman for me." And he said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, Gaiman has a mask." And at first, I have some preliminaries that he had shown me, where I didn't really it was close, but it didn't quite go with where I was wanting. Because I give Kanan, I probably bug the hell out of Kanan, because I'll be like, "Look, dude, I need this, that." I'm very detailed and specific about what I want. And Jesse
Yeah.
will tell you that same thing, that I have, Jesse has colored a few things, and it's not that it looked bad, it just wasn't the way I saw it in my head. When he originally colored that throne, the one where he's sitting on the Santana sitting on the skull throne and all that. When he colored that, there was a lot of green in there, and it was like puke green. It was it was weird, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, you don't dig it? And I was like, brother, you're the best in the world at what you do. I honestly think Jesse Hagee is a top 5, top 10 colorist, period. The stuff he's done over at IDW and Zenoscope and all that, I mean, it is bar none some of the best stuff I have ever seen. Um, period. I cannot stress that enough. And it just wasn't colored quite the way I said I want it to look like Darth Vader's lightsaber, like have that kind of flair to it. I said, I want that energy to have that kind of. He was like, okay. He said, give me a sec. And it took him about 30, 35 minutes. And he had something to show me. We just do a lot of this stuff either via text message or just Instagram or whatever. I can just hit him up and he just comes through and he just delivers.
You showing
So
something?
that is, huh?
You're showing something?
What was that?
I assume you're
I'm
showing
about
something.
to show something.
Okay, I'll flip over to your screen so they can see yours.
Am I still on sharing mode? I don't know.
No.
Okay, because that's why I was going to say. Let me, because I am setting something up because I want to show it.
Okay.
Let me. I definitely want to. Let me go back to share mode because sharing is caring. And that's how sharing works.
There, we see your screen.
Okay. So this is our stuff that we have on Amazon. We have 10 designs. And this is obviously, let me pull it up.
By the way, people who are watching this later on, they can go to the description. They'll find a link to your website, and they can get a link right to your Amazon store, to the Kickstarter. Everything's in the description.
Oh, good. Awesome. All right. Appreciate that. But yeah, this was done by Jamie Biggs. I know he's out of North Carolina. I started seeing his stuff on eBay, and I mean, nobody knows who this guy is, but he's a prolific eBay artist. Where I started, people had recommended, like when I was looking for artists, I was like, go on DeviantArt, Instagram, and eBay. Check eBay, like check out original art or original comic book art. And I found this guy. This guy literally can mimic Todd McFarlane. He can mimic Jim Lee. He can do that. I mean, some of the stuff that I've displayed that he does a lot of cover swipes clients. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have him do one for me. It's a Mr. Freeze, Sean Gordon Murphy Mr. Freeze cover that he did. And obviously, that someone else owns that original art. Mr. Murphy has sold it. And for those of you who have not read Batman White Knight, I vehemently ask you to do so. It is a top 10 read, and but Sean Gordon Murphy did he wrote it and did the art, and he did this Mr. Freeze piece that was kind of it wasn't over the top. It was just it hit Mr. Freeze was a trash character until Paul Dibby and Bruce Timm retooled him on Batman the Animated Series, and now he is someone that a lot of fans have just clamored to, and they really like him. So it is. I want Jamie to recreate, and I mean when I'm telling you, I've seen side by side comparisons of his. He did the whole cover of I think it was like X-Men 9 or something. It's like Wolverine versus Ghost Rider or something like that. It was crazy, and he did that, and it was almost like if he didn't sign it Biggs, you wouldn't know that he did it. And I mean, it was that kind of. He was stupid good with it. So definitely his ability to mimic other artists' styles, I found rather useful, considering that I can't afford some of these more expensive pieces. But this is the thing that I tried to get Kanan to do this for me. And one thing I will say about Kanan is a devout Christian. He is so anything he has no problem doing like gore and stuff if it comes up with if it's makes sense for the story, but he doesn't do shock gore or any of this kind of stuff. And I like blood and guts. I'm gonna be honest about it. I like it. And Jamie has no problem as long as the check's clear. He is
Yeah.
he is more than happy to please the customer.
So
So this
I
is
take it this was your interpretation of the Mockingbird cover?
you better believe it. Yes, ask me about my feminist agenda. And as you can see, it is spot on. He did everything. The drink, except obviously I said, well, the shirt came from somewhere and we can add a little blood. And right there on the belt buckle is Horace. And
Yeah.
yeah, we just do all these little details. And this is the best selling shirt that we have. This design struck a nerve with people for some reason. I don't know why. I definitely love it, but I thought it would do well, but I wouldn't have him create something that I didn't think would sell. I'm just trying to if I can't sell comic books, I'm trying to sell stuff that you know would that would at least resonate with fans. But this, obviously, this is about as gory as you're going to get with Caden White because he put this little blood down there and stuff like that. But like Kanan did this one, and I was like, I got chills when he sent it to me. I was like, oh my God. When he sends the art, because sometimes he'll send stuff, and I'm like, yeah, you need to change that but I mean, hey, if I'm paying you because
Yeah.
it's not cheap, and so if I have to pay you top dollar, um, then I'm gonna expect this is the very first Dark Santana piece that ever was done. And the reason it was done is the other piece that I showed you that Jimbo Salgado did. Um, Jimbo's in the Philippines, and I was telling him what I wanted. There no Dark Santana piece existed, period. I kept telling people about this character, Dark Santana, and I didn't have a reference. Because that's the thing. Jimbo was like, he like I said, he's in the Philippines. He understands English. Obviously, he's been in the business over 15 years. He's done a lot of those Marvel card sets that you get with all the little characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has he's been working for Upper Deck, and he did some animation too. Which I think he still does, but he works for some kind of animation company out in the Philippines. And that's what they do. They just farm that stuff out to these people, and they work them for 15 hours a day, and that's how we get a show like Voltron Legendary Defender or something like that. They sit there and
Yeah.
they just have those people draw for hours at a time. But Jimbo was like, I need reference art. I need to understand what I was like, it's Santa Claus, man. Everybody knows who Santa Claus is. And, and he was, it was, it took almost 4 months to get the piece back from Jimbo. Even after he finished it, because it was just like he didn't understand. It's like he couldn't fully grasp what I was trying to do. I gave very detailed because I didn't want any misunderstandings or anything, and the fact that he's in another country and English is a second language and all that. I wanted to be very clear about what I wanted and what I was paying for.
Yeah.
And he showed me a couple of layouts, and I was like, that ain't what I was wanting, brother. What are you doing? And he was and I'd hit him back and I'd wait, because I don't want to bug the artist when they're working on something for me. Although I bugged the hell out of Kanan. I was like, after been working with him almost a year and a half now. So yeah, we family now. I'm gonna bug the hell out of your ass. 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm bugging the hell out of you. You gonna hear that phone, big ding. Hey man,
So
it's, go ahead.
so do you have a schedule for when this year gets funded into getting the book out? Do you have that timeline figured out already,
Oh,
or?
absolutely, because we're doing rewrites on the spec script because Shelby wanted to use the Marvel method because I was trying to write this big, long, drawn out script. And it was, so I was like, okay. So I would sit there and try to, in my spare time, at least write a few pages here and everything. And I actually got in, there was a 40-page draft, and then we were going to do another. And then the 40-page draft, I don't like. I was working with another writer on it, and I just loathed it. He didn't understand what I was trying to do. He took my notes, and I gave him. I'm like, I got so many notes. It, I can fill up a phone book with notes. I mean, I could tell you what these characters eat for breakfast type stuff. And some people said I was giving too much detail when I would give them the notes. I was like, I want you to understand what these characters are and what they mean to me. And
Yeah, I'm working on a project right now, and I completely understand writing that. I know these characters inside and out.
yeah, and that's exactly my point. I was like, it may not mean anything to you, but it definitely means something to me, and I want you to understand that that
yeah,
is these characters, they're real to me.
yeah. You've been living with them since '98, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
you
they're
guys,
real to me.
yeah, they come and they visit you, and you sit there and you go through their stories, and you know them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're real characters to me. Dawn is a real character to me. And one thing I will say, after uh talking with Mike, Mike was extremely generous with his time, by the way. I don't know if Mike will see this, but I do. And but I mean, the good thing is we were able to add each other on Facebook now, and I can send him DMs. I sent him he DM'd me again yesterday, and I sent him another DM this morning because
and
there's
that's
something.
and that's
What
professional comic book artist Mike Miller, by the way.
Yeah, Mike S. Miller, Injustice, all the Injustice, the Game of Thrones comic books, the Hedge Knight, and he did a lot of all the covers on those. If I'm not, I don't think he did the interiors, but there were a series of Game of Thrones books that George R. R. Martin did, and Mike was commissioned to do the cover work for those, and they are phenomenal. If you, it was like Mike is extremely talented, and he told his story on Ethan Van Sciver's show where he basically has expressed his religious views, and a lot of people had banished him. He got banished from comics twice. It sounds like he got banished. He got banished the first time he used to post because me and him were talking about when he used to post on like John Burns burn victims AOL page, and I thought he was talking about the other boy. John Byrne
Oh,
loves these forums, and I used to go to forums all the time. I used to be huge on forums, and I also know diversity in comics. There's if I'm not mistaken, that what's the guy Tim whatever the guy down there in Texas that always tries to dig up his personal information.
oh, Doyle,
Tim
Doyle.
Doyle, yeah, Nakatomi Tim, that guy. Um, he encountered Richard when they were both posting on the forums together and stuff. I've heard Richard talk about that they used to be on some of the same forums, and I think they actually met each other in real life and tried to do a project together, and then obviously they fell out. you know, um, but yeah, Tim has made it his life's mission to ruin Richard's life and has made him 20 times richer in the process.
Well, I think we've all kind of helped make him 20 times richer in the process. We
Yeah.
are all involved in that.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm definitely a
Yeah.
Jawbreakers uh backer, but you don't think that, especially the thing that happened with Mark Wade, when the campaign was over, he had just left it up as a store, and Mark Wade does the Antarctic Press thing, and
Yeah.
he ends up getting another $100,000.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is there's a thing about professionalism that I think that's being forgotten by the so-called professionals. If you if if you want to sell your book, you know, if there's one thing I can say in this industry from what I've seen is it's all about who you know, who likes you. And if you can walk through that, you know, being nice to everybody, you can have the support of the people, right? The people who are going to buy your book. If you're treating a creator or a group of fans or customers, because that's what they are, badly, you're not going to be in the business too long, right?
Absolutely.
So you know that's why I'm a fan of this movement that we got going, and
Oh
you
yeah.
know I want to sit there and I want to bring creators, and I'm not about politics. I'm about bringing creators and good stuff to the top,
Yeah, now that
right?
I'm glad you said that because that's the thing. Uh, I'm definitely a conservative. Talked a little bit about politics with when I was on stream with Mike, but brand isn't about politics. Where I think I'll offend people is just because I talked to Edwin on the stream, and then we talked for about another hour after the stream went off. Edwin gave me some really good insights, but I knew I'm someone that was kind of raised in the church, and I kind of felt like I had a lot of religion forced down my throat. Um, so I'm not really religious now. I have some faith, but I'm not uber religious. But I am conservative. Um,
Yeah,
but obviously, there are a lot of Christian conservatives, and so when I was explaining to Edwin that I obviously have religious overtones in the book, he was like, "You're going to get into some," and obviously Mike is a devout Christian, and that was when he expressed his views on same-sex marriage and stuff on some public forums. I think it was on
mm,
one of the DC forums at that time, and some other DC pros went to the powers that be there. This was maybe 15 or so, maybe 20 years ago,
yeah,
and uh, basically kind of had gotten him banned where they don't fire you, but they just don't give you work anymore.
yeah, yeah. Well, artists or writers not wanting to work with each other
Yeah, and that's
over.
that's that's the thing that they said about Ethan, which Ethan has continually said was basically lies, and that they had projects with they still had projects being offered to him at the time that he chose not to renew his contract with DC. He said he had at least two or three writers saying, "Yeah, I definitely want to work with you," but obviously, like Tim Doyle is saying, "I've heard that." You were froze out and nobody would work with you and blah blah blah. And then Ethan was like, no, had like three books that I could have moved on to. And kept earning checks. But
Well, they're not turning Ethan down. Like, look at what he did to Green Lantern.
well,
Green Lantern was never a big character, and when they revamped that, like it really brought love to that character. It gave that character a spotlight that it definitely needed.
well, I've seen the same thing happen with Flash.
Oh
Flash.
yeah, Flash too.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, now I assume you're talking about Flash Rebirth, which is Jeff Johns and obviously Ethan Van Sciver. But go
Yeah,
back to Mark Waid's run on Flash right before he wrote Kingdom Come with Alex Ross. Flash was dying. They were coming out. They had a couple of writers. Um, like was it William Messner Loebs had tried to write Flash. They were about to cancel Flash for the 87th time, and then Mark Waid hadn't really been. He had done like a little indie thing or something. That's why they give you a book if you are like just trying to break into the industry. They'll give you a crappy title. Like,
not now, not now. That's
yeah,
not today,
yeah,
but back
obviously
in.
the whole business is different today,
Yeah,
but I'm going
yeah,
back 20, 30 years because I'm talking about Daredevil uh, being so weak a title that it was running bi-monthly, and
yeah,
they bring Frank Miller in, who had just drawn Daredevil on, and I have that issue of Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, where Frank Miller was a fill-in artist on that book, and they decided to do a Daredevil crossover. It's the very first time Frank Miller had drawn the character. And so that book is very special to me because it's the very first time that Frank Miller drew Daredevil, and thankfully it was not the last. And what he did in reshaping Daredevil's universe, focusing more on his being an Irish Catholic,
Yeah.
Taking a B-list Spider-Man villain like the Kingpin and making him the Kingpin. The Kingpin
Yeah.
we love now
Yeah.
is why John Byrne basically ripped off everything Frank Miller did and reworked Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor was the mad scientist, always jumping around in a giant robot suit or something, with boxing gloves, trying to take Superman out.
Yeah. Yeah. Kingpin was more of a back alley brawler type mobster type character.
And he had a cane. He had the cane with the diamond on the top of it, and he would point the cane at you, and it would shoot a laser beam out.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't read those old issues in so long. I got to go back and get some omnibuses and go and visit those times. Yeah.
No, but that's when I was crafting Lionel Solomon. That's who I used. I used the Kingpin. I wanted my own Kingpin. And Lionel Solomon is a guy that is more powerful in the world than you know. He has politicians in his pocket. He controls your media, what you're watching on television, the music you're listening to on the radio. He controls all. His company is, he's a multi-billionaire that has all these different technological businesses, and like wireless providers, and his companies create television programs, and he also he owns private prisons. There's all these different things that Lionel Solomon has his hands in through various sub companies and different, just like affiliated companies. He literally, if he shut down, and he would be 10 times worse than like a Jeff Bezos or a Bill Gates, or Warren Buffett, because he's seeking to influence and change the narrative and shape the world in his image and bring about uh, fulfilling the covenant's goal of bringing Deus out into our world. So a lot of these things that he has made money off of, to the public, he's going to look like a philanthropist. He's going to, and then you're going to find out that he's doing secret experiments on prisoners in some of his corporate owned prisons and I got interested in that. Someone about 15 years ago, I got offered a job uh, doing fugitive recovery. And it wasn't, and I'm not saying I wasn't going to be like a dog the bounty hunter kind of guy. They literally, the guy was telling me, he was showing me all the money he was making. And he gave me his business card and had this website on there and all this. And basically, I was working at a check cashing place, and this guy brought this huge check in. It was like 3 or 4 grand. I was like, "Oh man, you get all this money?" I wasn't making 3 or 4 grand, and that was like 2 weeks' pay, and he had made like almost 4 grand in 2 weeks. And I was like, "How do you make that money?" And like I said, he gave me his business card and explained to me. I had some conversations with him, and he was explaining uh, that obviously he's based. I'm in Tennessee, and he would be here in Tennessee, and they would get a call that some fugitive that they had been looking for like 6 or 7 months, a year, or whatever, got caught up in North Dakota, and so him and his partner would have to get their van and drive up to North Dakota. Uh, as I say, the guy's already caught. So you're basically just slapping the handcuffs on this person and chaining them up in the back of your van and transporting that person back to Tennessee so that they can stand trial and get locked up again.
Yeah.
And your hotels were getting paid for. They give you the per diem on your meals, all this kind of stuff. And I wasn't so much interested in doing the job, but I started researching. There are a lot of private prisons because the company that was paying him, they owned um, they owned a bunch of prisons around the country. They weren't, because obviously you got state run facilities, but I think it's Maxim. There's a company called Maxim, and they're like a huge private jailer. That's their business. That's how they make money. They build jails all over the country, and then they get a government contract, and they agree to feed and clothe and house the prisoners and get a huge paycheck because the government doesn't want to have a bunch of state employees on the payroll. They're like, well, we'll just lease that thing out and let them handle that. And they actually are a publicly traded company. Their stock went up tremendously when President Trump got elected. and but yeah, so I thought it would be interesting if a person like Lionel Solomon has a company that was a private prison system, and with government contracts, and that they could take some of these prisoners and say some rich person needs a kidney, and they could remove that kidney from that prisoner and just make that prisoner disappear. Oh, he got killed in the gang war in the prison, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
Or someone needs new corneas or something like that. So you could do all organ harvesting. You could do illegal medical experiments because Lionel Solomon owns a medical company that funds a lot of like cancer research and stuff like that. And you could do all kind of illegal experiments on these prisoners and do all that. And so that's but like I said, in the public, he's going and opening up schools that are going to help people and do all these things that make everyone think he's such a great, awesome person.
Yeah.
And they have no idea who this person really, really is.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for an hour, so and it's been great. I love having you on. Love getting the chance to talk to you, but I think that we should wrap it up. We'll talk after the stream. After we stop broadcasting. But if you could, in about 20 to 30 seconds, tell people why they should support Brand and sit there and get on the Kickstarter now.
Well, we've only got 13 days left, but Brand is a love story. It's gonna have a lot of action and stuff, but Brand's about the Cravens. It's about Dawn and David Craven. And it is for them that I wrote this story. That's what it's about. The art looks cool and everything, but it is basic sense. It is a love story. You're going to see two people with impossible odds come together and then just find each other. And that's it.
Well, thank you for joining us. As I said, this is my first stream, so I hope I have been a good host to you.
I enjoyed. This is definitely. But again, I thank you for offering your platform. Anyone that is willing to sit down and have a conversation with me, I am, especially for these last 13 days, I am definitely trying to go anywhere that I am invited. Any platform is sufficient. I just want to get as many eyeballs on the project as possible. And definitely thank you for having me.
And if you're watching this here re-recorded, I hope you've enjoyed it as well. And when I do my next live stream, I hope you'll come and check it out.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to end the live stream, and me and you will sit there and chat for a few minutes before you got probably more important things to do.
I'm going to do a little writing and stuff, but yeah.